arises for me is, okay, we have a lot of really smart people like those big three that were talking about how this stuff happens or what it is. But I think what they're often doing is showing us how it arises or what it is, but I'm not entirely convinced that you can fabricate it. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost more of an organic process that it's hard to sort of say, okay, I'm going to add A plus B plus C and try and get the timing right, and I'm going to make it happen in a laboratory kind of thing. You know?
I don't think you can manufacture it as a whole, but I think there's bits and pieces that you can steal from other cities, and it's the same concept done in a different way. We're not trying to copy any other city necessarily.
Right. It has to be done Lexingtonianly.
It's like,
and I think it gets to it's not manufacturing, but to think of rather nurturing. And when they're using words like ecology and organic, so what do you put into place to create a nurturing environment? And I think there's a physical part to that where they're talking about environment meets people, and so there's a design. Much like this space, it's an open space, it's bright, it's beautiful, it's at a waterfront, it's going to inspire interaction. So how do we, what physical spaces in Lexington can we look at and improve to inspire interaction, to inspire this conversation? I think that's a simple thing to look at, just to even catalog those spaces is a big one. And then, you can nurture it through the regulatory code stuff, loosening that so the barriers to entry is so much lower. And even if it's, we've had a lot of talk about creating entrepreneur creative fund, and a lot of people spoke about that. And so that's another nurturing device that should be put into place and kind of developed so we can have that type of change and that process that starts to happen.
I think all three guys yesterday, and I didn't catch the whole session, but they were talking about openness being a key factor.
Right.
So it's about do we need to change, find ways to change our culture in Lexington, and how do you do that? I mean, is it a matter of bringing like-minded people together, or?
Well, because it's the thing that it seemed like we got hit over the head with session after session. The city has replaced the company, right? You're not at this company for 20 years. You want to be the city, part of your identity, and being able to make a difference in that city is part of it. So quality of life was the term we kept hearing, but the thing that blew me away was how much urban planning relates to quality of life. They kept talking about the physical appearance of a city, not just the natural aspect, but the built environment. So then you start thinking, to what you were saying, Laura, to get the urban planning that you want, you've got to change that entire cultural mindset in entire organizations. In LCCG, with the planning department, that's not a rip on the planner, but in a planning department, in the private sector, there's got to be more of us leading the charge. We've got to take that leadership over from the older generation and get to that, hey, it's okay to wear flip-flops and a t-shirt to a meeting. We don't have to be in our blue blazer or penny loafers. And it's okay if someone thinks you're an idiot, take a chance. There's such a fear of taking risks in what you say sometimes. And that's all part of that culture that you were mentioning.
Well, I think I'm really interested in seeing a summit of this nature being brought to Lexington. I think one of the things that struck me significantly over the last few days is the fact that I grew up here, 0 to 24, born and raised in the city, and had no idea that we had this much creative talent. And so when we talked about presentations that were demonstrated, the fact that they were not even linear, we were talking about that this morning. They were from all over the place, pulling together information into a presentation during the presentation. That's a tremendous amount of creative talent. And so when you tap into that, what then happens to your community when you understand the value of that mindset, the creativity that is now brought to the process, and how they help solve problems? That's really what it comes down to. And I think, one of the things I like to see happen for Lexington is mining this creative talent and doing that by bringing forward this kind of conference to Lexington and see what we've got.
Yeah. Or just, among us, on the way home or whenever,
just sitting, we've got the 10 of us, but we also, God knows how many other people. Hell, I can come up with, including my wife and some of my good friends, a bunch of other people who would have been very happy here too, and just build that list. Because obviously there's strength in numbers, and I didn't know some of you people, and some of you people don't know some of my friends, and but they're, we could go from 10 to probably 50 in a heartbeat, and then even expand that number. But I think maybe if we had some banner to fly, as it were, and say, and not even get too specific. I mean, the problem with a nonprofit is, you literally, legally have to state your mission, which is important, and I don't want to get away from that. But our mission, what I'm envisioning, a group that has a very open mission that includes all this stuff and even stuff we haven't talked about here, so that we get as many like-minded people in one place as possible. And yeah, there may be some squabbling over priorities, but we might have to squelch that a little bit and just say, okay, not worry about priorities until we get this thing going further. And that's why I don't know, exactly how to even, get that going, but that's not a reason not to get it going.
We so quickly get to the next steps and don't spend sometimes enough time in the conceptual, creative phase where we're bringing out brainstorming ideas and possibilities. We want to get to what is the way to solve that right away.
Instead of getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah, it feels creative energy.
But as far as getting more people involved, that's what's so great, I think, about the Legacy Center funded by the Knight Foundation and housed at the Bluegrass Community Foundation. The Cree tours that they're doing,
Great job, Steve, for putting this together.
If it's 10 people at a time on this, and it's not the same 10 people every time, you start thinking about, there's that group, and it's not as informal necessarily as what you're talking about, but seeing is believing, just like the Autodesk guy, if he talked about a tsunami, we wouldn't really be listening, but the way he showed that visually, that whole room got silent, because we're taking 10 people at a time on these trips. I mean, it's amazing what you grasp, and then the obligation we all have to pay back or pay it forward, I guess, is making sure that we don't let it die when we get back there.
Momentum. Yeah.
And we come up with, which I know we'll talk about later, specific ideas that we can actually implement.